Hey everybody, Jazzy here. I recently finished up a Don't Starve Together boss run over on Twitch that I really wanted to share with you. It was not a try-hard run, and it took me a little under 200 days to kill all the bosses, not including Enraged Kloss or Misery Toadstool. But I learned a lot of important lessons about a character that I've been itching to take on a run for over a year now. That character is Walter. Now, if you did a YouTube search for Walter around the time of his release, you'd get bombarded with videos that relentlessly criticized Walter. Everybody had an opinion, whether it be his slingshot being less than powerful, his sanity loss being way too punishing, his character perks becoming obsolete in the late game, you name it. And frankly, I've always felt that, similar to what's happening now with Wanda, some of the most outspoken voices had yet to play at all with Walter before just completely renouncing his design. In my Walter guide from over a year ago, I said that I intend to give the kid a chance, and that's exactly what I finally got to do in this run. Walter is an incredibly strong character. His downsides are significant, but with proper management, you can find yourself with a multitude of unique perks and highly effective advantages. So if you were a skeptic, it's cool, all is forgiven. Just let me take you through 200 days as Walter. I think the kid may surprise you. So, first autumn of a boss run. What are we gonna do? Rush B-Queen? Rush the ruins? Nope, what we are gonna do is rush a Beefalo. NANI? I can't tell you how many times I was called to explain this move while streaming. Why would the character who comes with a mount want to rush a Beefalo? I'm so glad you asked. So, when you're considering domesticating a Beefalo, you want to ask yourself the question, what disadvantages of my character can a Beefalo help to manage? For Wormwood, a Beefalo can absorb damage and mitigate the need to heal with expensive items. For Wendy and Wes, an ornery Beefalo can negate their low damage output. For Maxwell, it can negate that low health pool. And for Wolfgang, it can negate the high skill cap. For Walter, the Beefalo really helps to manage sanity. Every time Walter takes damage, he loses 200% of that damage from his sanity. It is a very punishing disadvantage, and will apply to Walter even if he gets hit while riding Woby. But on a Beefalo, sanity damage from melee attacks is completely negated. We can still fire our slingshot from atop a Beefalo, but we also have a powerful melee attack that has infinite uses and can potentially hit as hard as a dark sword. Plus, having a Beefalo is practically a requirement for moving around the Suspicious Marble and Celestial Altar pieces, so all of this taming will be time well spent. And we managed to shove that first piece of grass into our Beefalo's mouth on day 3. Officially beginning the taming process. Thank you to Darkeye27 for the perfect name. Pinky. We're gonna ride Pinky around for a few days and get her buck timer up a bit, and then we'll start her ornery training. I like to start a Beefalo off with 10 twigs or grass just to get their obedience all the way up. In the first few days, they buck you off so constantly that you don't really need to feed them more than a twig every time you remount. If they refuse a mount, then their obedience is below 50%, and you want to feed them at least 5 pieces. If anyone was concerned that all this Beefalo training made Woby feel left behind, you can take solace in Walter's quote, which seems to suggest that the two of them get along pretty well. Woby is a good girl for storage and petting, not so much for riding and fighting. Now, let's talk a little bit about Walter's sanity. I would describe it as more of a static attribute than it is with other characters. As in, it's not really affected by the environment, so it won't gradually decrease. If it does go down, it happens all at once from taking a hit. But this means that Walter on a Beefalo can really benefit from not having to constantly manage sanity. Yeah, the Drain of Dusk and Night no longer applies. Hell, Walter can walk around in the dark to save on light and his sanity would not drop. He can also jump through wormholes or hang around any negative aura, and as long as his health stays up, his sanity will not move. Walter on a Beefalo actually has very limited opportunities to go insane and farm nightmare fuel, but there's always the ruins. So here's the plan for autumn. we're gonna do some ornery training while mapping out the mainland, and then towards the end of autumn, we will make a quick trip to the ruins when Pinky's buck timer is a bit higher. I'm also grabbing all of the marble on the surface that I can find so that I can turn them into beans and plant them before ruins diving. They will be Walter's primary slingshot ammo, so I want to start mass producing it as early as possible. We got very unlucky with set pieces in this world, and marble was kinda rare. All the better to start farming right away. If I had any cooking to do back at base, I tried to do it at night while the Beefalo was sleeping. Pinky will not lose domestication if she's asleep, so I can dismount safely at night and get stuff done on foot. Most nights though, unless I had something important to do, I just kept her awake so that I can keep gaining domestication. Here I'm using the slingshot to aggro volt goats during the day. It's a perfect example of one of those incidental perks that a projectile weapon can offer. Most of Walter's slingshot uses are like this, where you just find yourself in a situation where, oh yeah, this is really useful right now. Like, oh, I need a morsel for these bacon and eggs, let's just kill a bird. If you need crockpot filler, you can snipe butterflies with pebbles and bunnies with gold rounds. While training a Beefalo, I save the swamp to map out for last. That way I can get the buck timer up enough to minimize the chances of a Beefalo getting bucked. Tentacles are one of the biggest dangers to a Beefalo, and if your cow gets hit by one, your best bet is to just throw on armor and try to kill the tentacle on foot. But it's really preferable to avoid this situation. You see me standing on one spot for a minute before dismounting, just to make sure that there's no tentacle nearby. Walter doesn't lose sanity from being near one, so you can't even use that as a range detector. So I'm being very cautious. Around day 13, I got most of the world mapped out, but I've only collected about 10 marble. I may have missed a set piece, but I thought I was pretty thorough. Anyways, I plant what I got, and then we go hunt for the ruins. It's good to bring your bonded Beefalo into the caves before the start of winter, because that will prevent it from going into heat when the season changes. This will not prevent spring heat, but as far as I can tell, it works for all other seasons. We got all of 0 totally normal trees in the forests, and a day of chopping dead trees spawned all of 0 tree guards. Fortunately, we got the blue mushroom forest right next to a sinkhole, so before heading to the ruins, I'm gonna dip into the lunar grotto and kill some mush gnomes. These guys drop 1 living log with a 50% chance of dropping a second. I personally think that, considering the lack of access, the danger, and the high health of these mobs, they should drop 2 guaranteed. Tree guards, by contrast, are one of the easiest mobs to kill and drop 6. Anyways, we killed 2 gnomes and got all of 2 living logs. I just want to make a star collar staff, so I don't really need any more. I'm also grabbing a bunch of blue caps so that I can heal Pinky in the ruins. So around this time of the domestication process, it actually gets more challenging to keep their obedience up. The reason is your buck timer is much higher, so the Beefalo will lose more obedience while being ridden because you're not dismounting as often. Because of that, I'm trying to be more generous with feedings, and if she rears up, then I gotta get light bulbs into her mouth immediately. She did shake her saddle 1 time right here, which is fine. I just wanted to avoid too many shakes while I'm in the caves because I did not bring materials for another saddle. Day 17, we enter the ruins. All I really want from here is a star collar staff and a couple of crowns. This can be very challenging with an untamed Beefalo, so we are going to be extremely cautious. First of all, until it's tamed, it will only be hitting for 34 damage. Second, if the rook hits my Beefalo while I'm riding, the Beefalo will take 45 damage. But if I'm not riding it, it will take 200 damage, aggro on the rook, and likely die within seconds. Lastly, the Beefalo will not protect Walter from bishops, since projectile attacks still damage the rider. So because of this, I'm approaching each set piece very slowly, and trying to get the rooks to do as much damage to each other as possible. The bishop I'm tanking, but with just a football helm, my sanity drops like a stone, and I need to constantly back off to fight terror beaks and remount Pinky. The statue zone with the 2 bishops gave me a particularly hard time since I could only get in a few hits before taking damage and going completely insane again. I may have been able to dodge the attacks a little, but it's tough without a Glossamer saddle. That might have been faster though than just trying to tank the bishops. Walter is not a good tank. Also, freeze hounds would help with multiple bishops. I needed to return to the light bulb field because I was blowing through my bulbs feeding Pinky. So winter started as I was finishing up in the ruins. this is not a great idea because I did not make a thermal stone. So eventually what I did was just upgrade a station, craft 1 crown, and my star collar staff. I was really hoping to make more crowns, but I don't think I got down here fast enough. Anyway, it was time to go home. I'll clear the rest of the ruins in summer. The trip back to the surface cost a couple extra uses of the dwarf star, but once we got upstairs, I could just start burning trees to keep warm, and that got us safely back to base where I could finally prototype my thermal stone. I'm also going to make a piggyback, which I should have done before going to the ruins. A Beefalo completely negates the speed reduction of a piggyback, so there's no reason not to make one if a Beefalo is going to be your primary mode of transportation. Honestly, between Woby's 9 slots, Nightmare Chester's 12 slots, and Walter's piggyback, we should not be at all want for inventory in this run. It is only inevitable that the first walrus killed would give Walter not a walrus tusk, but a useless tam o'shanter. Walter unfortunately doesn't gain sanity from clothing, so the only use he'd have for a tam is insulation. And a Beefalo hat is better in that regard. The second walrus was much more accommodating, and the walking cane is now ours. Cactus is going to be an important food in this run, and I plan to use it for sanity restoration during boss fights, so every chance I get, I'm picking cactus from the desert. Pinky takes the damage, so Walter loses no sanity, and Pinky gains ornery points. Win-win. Now, something very incredible happened on night 24. Pinky poofed into a beautiful, fully tamed ornery Beefalo. I was rather shocked because I've never domesticated a Beefalo that early in a run before. Beefalo can only gain 4.8% domestication every day, so theoretically they'd need a minimum of 20.8 days without a brush. We started this process halfway through day 3, so this Beefalo got tamed in about 21.5 days. Well, in that case, we get a head start on claws this winter. Time well spent, if you ask me. Pinky is going to provide a ton of safety and speed to Walter for this run, and I'm excited to show you how we fight the bosses. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for part 2. See you then.